Okay, I've got a few minutes this morning. Well, it's already past noon, but I've got some time. I'm going to do a couple of videos, hopefully. Got some new notes. All right. Let's see. This one's a difficult subject for me personally. I'm going to talk about God. Okay? For me, truth is God. Now, let's go back a little ways. When I was 10 years old, I sat down, I read Matthew in the New Testament. And I think I read Luke also. And I converted myself to Christianity when I was 10 years old. We were going to church before that, so I knew what to read. So I was a Christian from a young age. But I chose to be. No one forced me. As time went on, I read more and more and more. I've read the Bible all the way through at least 5 times. Probably 5 times. I can honestly say I read the whole thing that many times. And I've read other works as well. Gospel of Thomas and other things, some of the Catechism. I was actually going to a Baptist church when I was little for a while. My mom used to take us to a Baptist church. All right. Anyway, fast forward to now. I want to talk about currently, for me, what God is. God is truth. All right. Now, this is a sensitive subject for many people, and I don't want to offend anyone. I'm going to, because I'm going to say that the Christian God, for me, was something I had to put distance between us. It's very similar to going no contact with a narcissist. Okay. Now, after doing that, it was, I went through a period of heartbreak because I loved God. It was very hard. I've had to do that with other people as well. And it's heartbreaking when you find out that you're being manipulated. Okay? I'm a conservative in the sense that I'm anti-progressive. But that's it. I will not side with progressives. I will side with Christians, but I will not side with progressives. As an example, in this country. Now, in other countries, liberalism, progressivism, Christianity, and all that mean slightly different things, or maybe sometimes very different things to them in other countries. But to here, I'm talking mainly, my audience is more than 80% United States. I consider myself a former Christian, but I still hold many of those values because I can see that they're rational in many ways, or I see many of the values as being rational. So I hold on to many of those values that I was practicing as a Christian. I went through stages where after the breakup with Christianity, so to speak, I went through several phases of exploring and reading about other religions. and I would latch on here for a little while and get fascinated, and then it would dissipate, and I'd latch on here and then it would dissipate. Mainly with neo-paganism, I would latch on to some ideas here and there, and then I started to look into the occult, and I realized this is pretty much the same narcissistic BS. Okay. So if you understand relationships with people that have cluster B personality types, or the dark triad personality types, if you understand those, narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators, in that vein of Machiavellianism, those three dark triad things, narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, you have to put distance between you and them, you and that. I had to be very careful not to make this an us versus them. But if you want to become rational, you have to put distance between you and the irrational. And unfortunately, irrational types of people latch on to things that you hold dear, that you even fall in love with. They latch onto that as a tool of manipulation to get inside your head. It's a very, very insidious practice. But after several years, and after a lot of struggles, internal struggles, narrowing down and focusing on who I am, what I am, and what my identity is, I was able to put distance there. Now, did any light bulbs go off with me when I make a transition, or is this just some kind of midlife crisis, or what is this? What's wrong here? Some might ask. One of my turning points in realizing that I was wasting my time was when my wife had our first child. I looked at that child, it changed everything. And it will, and it does for everybody. At least on some level. With me, it just washed over me. And those wheels started to churn. And I began to see this little child, this perfect little girl, is going to rule my life. Yeah. But that's okay. Not only is it okay, but this little child is going to straighten me out as far as knowing what the truth is. After some time, I realized that if I was God and I had a child, I would protect that child. I would not let harm come to that child. Which is, in the Bible, what God does. Doesn't let harm come to his child. But the difference between us and God in that context is that I don't have control over the life of my child. I can't bring my child back to life if she dies. I have skin in this game of life and death. I have skin in this game. I have to accept that my child could die. I have to accept that there's a possibility of my child suffering forever after she dies. How is that acceptable when God doesn't experience the same thing. God has no skin in the game in that context. There's no skin in the game for him. That started my wheels turning. And when you have relationships with people who are manipulative and cruel and abusive, you start to understand that they try to avoid skin in the game, but they want you to have it. They want you to have the skin in the game. Put your life on the line. You are the one to die, not them. If they make a decision, it's you that are responsible for that, or it's your fault if it goes wrong, and you are the one to pay the consequences. Now, this might be kind of harsh, but I do want to say it because I'm going to start writing things in the description. I've already put some things in the description on my philosophy, and I want to make sure I address these things. Now, you can look up other types of religions that may be similar to the worship of truth, or calling God providence, the word providence to represent God, as in deism. I think that's what it is. I'll need to do another Google search of deism. I'm not a deist. I think deists see God as something that put everything in place but is hands off. It's kind of like the law, right? And the law is put in place, but you let the law after that handle things in your hands off. I think it relates closely to government. Deism and government are related, I think. All right, I think that's where it comes from. But I'm not a deist. Now, I used to think that if I rejected God and I said definitely there is no such thing as God, I would be an atheist. And I have called myself an atheist after that. But if I worship something, if my life is directed towards something and I worship it and it becomes something that I devote my life to, essentially that is God. And I'm devoting my life to truth and a search for truth and how to understand truth and accept it. So yeah, truth is my God. So I can't really call myself an atheist fully, because I'm not just anti-God. And if I see the slogan "In God I Trust," I agree with that. Because for me, that's truth. In truth I trust. Okay. Now, my children are going to see these videos. So it's not only for you, but it's for my kids too. Hopefully everyone can benefit from it. I'm going to talk about a lot of things that my kids are going to go, "Dad, that's cringe. Ooh, that's cringe." But, oh well. I'm going to have grandkids too, okay? So don't be like that. They might not think I'm cringe. Who knows? All right. Okay. That's it. I'm going to move on to a different subject. Now, what do I think about the beginning or a creation? Or I mentioned the term, the human mind is designed to do this, and we are designed to do that. Okay, is that a slip? Is that a Freudian slip? Is that some kind of slip? Well, it kind of is in a way, because that's the way I've been indoctrinated. Everything's designed by an intelligent designer or by God or whatever. But I've come to understand by reading and study and looking that there is such a thing. I call it spontaneous construction. How are things able to be in existence without a designer or a creator? Well, something called spontaneous construction. So I have no problem with that answer or with that question. I don't need to believe in something outside the universe that created the universe. I don't need to believe in that. It doesn't bug me because of something called spontaneous construction, and I'll get into it later. But I just wanted to mention that. What about sin? Do I have a problem with that? Am I afraid that I'm going to go to hell? Am I afraid of all kinds of stuff related to spiritual matters? No. Why? Why am I so sure? The more I learn about control, manipulation, narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, the more I learn about those things, and the more I learn about logic and fallacies and rationality and, yes, mathematics and physics, the more I understand that truth is where we need to put our trust. Because all the wrong people hate truth. Not only because they end up being wrong, but all the bad people, I can't say all, but it's a tactic of bad people to either manipulate or ignore, or in some cases, hate the truth. So if those kind of people hate this thing and they're bad, this thing must be good. Or it's an indication that this is something good. I have no problem with switching my mindset. And do I have a problem with truth being inanimate? It's just it's a thing. It has no personality. It has no interaction. Well, I tend to disagree with that. Yeah, it's an inanimate thing, but we can interact with it. And one of the fascinating things about truth is you and I are separate. We can approach the truth in different ways and be searching for it and walking around searching for it and meet at the truth. And once we do meet at the truth, even though we're separate, the truth binds us together. I don't feel isolated or lonely looking for truth, because eventually the others that are looking for it, we're all going to be in agreement. It's not isolating, it's not alienating, it's not something that makes me feel lonely. No. And it will always be that way. We could forget everything and oops, I got total amnesia. You do too? Oh, let's look for the truth again. We start wandering and we come right back. If we know how to find it, there we go. We're right back there where the truth is. That is wonderful. It truly is. All right. So yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. I smoked down a little bit of the cigar and I was going, what should I talk about next? And I had to get that off my chest. This is from yesterday, and I'm going to wait to do this, finish it tomorrow. And that's another subject too that I want to get into is Native Americans thought that tobacco was sacred. And why is that? You know, along with the sun and the seasons and the animals and all sacred, the tobacco was sacred too. The corn plant, various things. Why is that? I think I know why. All right. And I'll get into that later. I'll get into it as part of my philosophy, because there are philosophical aspects and mental health aspects involved in doing certain things that help calm the mind. I don't recommend it, but I understand where it comes from. It has an effect on you. The nicotine has an effect. It's the same with the smoke and the whole smell and everything. It has an effect on the brain, and I know what it is. I know why it was so important, but I'll discuss that later. So yeah, I don't want to include other things in here. With this one, I'll just leave this one separate. And I'm glad that silly bird wasn't chirping the whole time. I swear I'm going to scare that bird away somehow. If I don't shoot it. All right, we'll see you later.